Hello YouTubers, Dylan Olson here with another drawing video. In this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you all how to draw fear from inside out. So let's get started. First off, you need a piece of paper and a pencil. This is just basic printer paper, nothing real special or unique, and a simple number 2 pencil that pretty much anyone uses. And we start off with what is kind of, well, so more like a soft sideways triangle, like a pebble. This is where his head will be. And remember to draw very loose and lightly at first, so that way when you make mistakes you can get rid of them real easily. And then we draw the eyes, and they are basically, they're almost perfect circles. Not perfectly round ones. Okay, so we got that. Then we're going to draw the basic shape for his nose. And then we are going to draw a skinny base triangle for his body. And then for his arms, we're going to draw these little cylinder shapes because they're real long and skinny. And the reason I'm doing solid shapes is because he's a 3D animated character. And this is how the artists at Pixar build him in the computer. So we do, and then you can do a ball for the joint, as if we were drawing an action figure of some kind. Then we draw another cylinder for the sleeve. Then we're going to draw the base for his hand. And then we repeat. Then we're going to draw another arm. This is his arm's he's going to have like his hand on here. Then here's his forearm. And then we draw what will be his hand that goes like this. Here's his, these are the bases for his fingers. We have the lower end of his shirt. And now we need to indicate his legs. They can just be rectangles. And then some lower shapes for his feet. Okay, and then we can just draw this little basic shape for his mouth. So we've got our basic solid shapes that will indicate his body and buildup. Now we need to draw the specific details. We're going to start with the eyebrows. It's basically these, they're almost like, kind of like hot dog shapes, or they're all going to go like this. And then we can beef up the eye. Okay, then we need to draw the eyelid. And now we need to do a similar thing for this eye. So there's the eye. And then for his eyelid, you're going to draw a basic like crescent moon. And then for his other eyebrow, he's going to have it's going to be facing upward like a really thick moon shape. So we'll darken that in. So we got that. Then if you want, you can go ahead, take the side of your pencil and shade in those eyebrows black. All right, so then before we get to his rest of his face, we need to draw this curve of, it's kind of like hair. So we have that. Now we need to draw his irises for his eyes. And they're almost perfect circles. Okay, so we got that. Now we need to put in a slightly smaller circle inside for the pupil of his eye. And then we need to put these little small circles on the right side of both eyes. These are the highlights. And then you grab the side of your pencil and color the pupils in black. Just like that. Okay, and then one more little detail. We need to draw a lower eyelid here. And draw like another eyelid right here. And then we're going to define his nose. So that's his nose. And then we need to draw his mouth. So you have this is his upper lip. Indicate the upper side. Here's the lower lip. Here's the back side of his head. And now we need to draw his two teeth at the top, which are basically these sort of squares. And then the bottom side, there are only 3 teeth that go like this. Sorry. Here's the inside of his mouth. Now, we need to, before we get to the rest of his face, we need to draw his fingers. Here's the other finger that gets a little skinny. He's got 4 fingers on this hand. So there's his hand. Then we can get in the lower part of his head. And then we need to, before we get to anything else, we need to draw his sleeve. And there's a button on it, so you draw a circle. Here's the lower part of his sleeve. Here's his shoulder. And before we get to anything else, if you remember, he's got like a bow tie on. So you draw a square for the knot and a triangle for the sides. Well, they're not really triangles, they're more. Here's the other side. And now we need to get his other side of his arm, his other arm in that matter. So you draw this arm. Here's this one connects there. Here's the fold line on his arm. And now we need to draw his sleeve. And then right at the end of it here, there's a circle for the button. And then you're going to draw that part of his sleeve. And now we need to draw his other hand. And it has 4 fingers, just like the other one. Here's his pinky. And then you have 1 finger, 1 middle finger, and then 1 pointer finger, just like that. Then we connect the side of his body here. We have to draw the lower side of his body. Here's the lower thick sleeve of his shirt. And now we are going to draw his And then we need to draw the sleeve side of his sleeves of his pant legs on both sides. This one's going to be more curved because his foot's turned. And then this one you can just draw a front curve like that. And now we put in the shoes themselves. Put an S shape for that. He's wearing dress shoes. Here's the back ball of the shoe. Here's the heel. And then for this one, you just draw basic moon shape like that. The lower side of his, then here's the heel and the fold. Now what we can do, we can shade in his mouth, shade in his shoes black, mainly the top sides of the shoes. And then we can also shade in the lower side of his shirt. And then if you want, you can put a little shadow under him so that he's standing on the ground and not floating in space. And there you have it. That is Fear from Disney and Pixar's Inside Out. Thank you for watching. Hope you had fun. Please make sure to like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Bye.